I'm Kara Vance, 32, and I built a multi-million-dollar software empire from a studio apartment I shared with 3 roommates. My back still aches when I remember sleeping on that thin mattress on the floor, the smell of cheap ramen permeating every piece of clothing I owned. Back then, my parents didn't call. They were too busy focusing on Leo, the golden child, the one they said was destined for greatness because he had the look and the charm I supposedly lacked. I was the quiet one. I was the worker. I was the girl who stayed up until 4:00 a.m. writing lines of code until my vision blurred, while Leo spent our parents' meager savings on club entries and designer shirts. Now I am the one who pays the bills. I am the one who cleared the mortgage on the family home 3 years ago. I am the one who paid for Leo's Ivy League tuition, his car, and his 5-figure engagement ring for a woman who looks at me like I'm the help. Tonight is the rehearsal dinner. We are sitting in a private room at the Gilded Anchor, the kind of place where the wine costs more than my first car. The air smells of rosemary, seared scallops, and the stifling scent of my mother's expensive perfume I bought her for Christmas. I look across the table. Leo is laughing, his arm draped around Chloe. Chloe is wearing a dress that probably cost 3 months of my old rent. My parents are beaming at him, their eyes crinkling with a pride they have never once directed at me. To them, my success is just a utility. I am the ATM. I am the silent engine that keeps their lives running smoothly while Leo gets to be the face of the family. My heart is thumping against my ribs. It's a physical, rhythmic drumming that I can feel in my throat. I've been planning this for 6 months. I wanted to give him something that would finally make them see me. Not just as a bank account, but as the sister who loves them enough to provide a legacy. I reach into my clutch. My fingers brush against the cool, heavy velvet of the small box. This isn't just a gift. It's a $10 million penthouse overlooking the harbor, a glass palace in the sky with a private elevator and a view that makes you feel like you own the world. It's the ultimate I love you. It's the ultimate I made it. Leo, I say, my voice is slightly shaky. I clear my throat and stand up. The clinking of silverware stops. The room goes quiet. My father looks up, a faint shadow of annoyance crossing his face at the interruption of Leo's story. My mother sips her wine, her eyes vacant. Leo, you're my brother, I start. I can feel the heat rising in my cheeks. We've been through a lot. I know I'm always working. I know I'm not always the easiest person to talk to because my mind is always on the next launch or the next deal. Leo grins at me, that easy, effortless smile that always makes people forgive him for everything. You're a machine, Kara, we know. I don't want to just be a machine tonight, I say, my voice gaining strength. I wanted to give you and Chloe a foundation, a place to start your life where you never have to worry about a roof over your head or a bill at the door. I reach out and slide the small velvet box across the white linen tablecloth. It moves silently, coming to a rest right in front of his wine glass. Open it, I whisper. The table is dead silent. Even the servers in the corner seem to hold their breath. Leo looks at the box, then at Chloe. He flips the lid. Inside, the gold-plated keys catch the light of the chandelier, sparking with a brilliant, aggressive yellow. A small card sits tucked into the silk lining, the penthouse at the zenith. Unit 50A, welcome home. I wait for the explosion. I wait for Leo to jump up and hug me. I wait for my mother to cry and tell me I'm the best daughter in the world. I wait for my father to finally look at me with something other than expectation. Instead, the silence stretches. It grows heavy. It grows cold. Leo doesn't pick up the keys. He stares at them like they're a coiled snake ready to strike. I see his jaw tight. I see the vein in his temple begin to pulse. Beside him, Chloe's face doesn't light up with joy, it twists into a mask of pure, unadulterated coldness. "What is this, Kara?" Leo asks. His voice isn't filled with gratitude. It's low, vibrating with a tension I didn't see coming. It's the penthouse," I say, my smile faltering. I feel a bead of sweat trickle down my spine. "The one we looked at last year, I bought it for you. It's yours, all yours." My mother puts her glass down with a sharp clack. "You bought it?" she asks, her voice thin and sharp. "Yes," I say, looking at her. "I wanted him to have the best." My father stands up slowly. He doesn't look proud, he looks disgusted. He looks at the keys, then at me, and his eyes are darker than I've ever seen them. "You just couldn't help yourself, could you?" he says. The words hit me like a physical blow to the stomach. "You just had to make his wedding about you. You had to show us all how much more you have. You had to humiliate him in front of his new family." I blink, the room spinning. "Humiliate him? Dad, it's a $10 million home. I'm trying to help." "Help?" Leo spits the word out, finally looking up. His face is flushed red. "You're trying to own me, Kara. You've been buying us for years, and now you want to buy my marriage? You want me to live in a house you paid for so you can hold it over my head every single Thanksgiving? So you can remind us all that we're nothing without your software money?" I feel the blood drain from my face. My hands are shaking so hard I have to grip the back of my chair. This isn't the reaction. This isn't how the script was supposed to go. I poured my soul into this gift. I worked extra hours, took on more stress just to make sure the closing happened before the wedding. I never thought, I stammer. "That's the problem," Chloe says, her voice dripping with venom. She stands up, leaning over the table toward me. "You don't think about anyone but yourself. You think money fixes the fact that you're a cold, calculating woman who doesn't know how to be a sister. You think you can buy a seat at the head of this family. You're pathetic." My mother stands up now too, putting a hand on Leo's shoulder. "Take those keys, Kara, take them and leave. We don't want your charity. We don't want you here if this is how you're going to act." "Mom," I gasp, "I'm your daughter. I paid for this dinner. I paid for your house. And we've paid for it with our pride every single day," my father growls. "Get out. You're disowned, Kara. Don't come to the wedding tomorrow. Don't call. We are done being your projects." I stand there frozen as the people I've spent my entire adult life supporting turn their backs on me. The gold keys sit on the table, shimmering and useless, as the world I built for them collapses into a pile of ash. I'm Kara Vance, 32, and I built a multi-million-dollar software empire from a studio apartment I shared with 3 roommates. My back still aches when I remember sleeping on that thin mattress on the floor, the smell of cheap ramen permeating every piece of clothing I owned. Back then, my parents didn't call. They were too busy focusing on Leo, the golden child, the one they said was destined for greatness because he had the look and the charm I supposedly lacked. I was the quiet one. I was the worker. I was the girl who stayed up until 4:00 a.m. writing lines of code until my vision blurred, while Leo spent our parents' meager savings on club entries and designer shirts. I am the one who pays the bills now. I am the one who cleared the mortgage on the family home 3 years ago. I am the one who paid for Leo's Ivy League tuition, his car, and his 5-figure engagement ring for a woman who looks at me like I'm the help. Tonight was supposed to be the pinnacle of that support. I sat at the head of the long, mahogany table at the Gilded Anchor, the scent of expensive rosemary and seared scallops heavy in the air. I had just slid the velvet box across the white linen. I had just revealed the $10 million penthouse overlooking the harbor. I expected a gasp. I expected my mother to weep with gratitude. I expected Leo to jump up and swing me around in a hug. Instead, the air in the private dining room died. It didn't just get quiet, it became a vacuum. The only sound was the faint, rhythmic ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. I watched the golden keys inside the box catch the amber glow of the chandelier. They sparkled with a brilliant, aggressive yellow. My mother, Meredith, didn't even look at the keys. She looked at me. Her face didn't soften with maternal pride. It twisted. Her features sharpened into a mask of sudden, jagged rage I had never seen directed at Leo, only at me when I was a child failing to be pretty enough for her parties. Crack! She slammed her hand onto the table. The force of it made the crystal wine glasses dance. A few drops of deep red Cabernet splashed onto the pristine white tablecloth like blood. You just couldn't help yourself, could you, Kara? Her voice was a low, vibrating hiss. It sliced through the silence. I felt the blood drain from my face. My heart, which had been thumping with excitement, stuttered in my chest. Mom, what? What are you talking about? It's a home. It's for Leo and Chloe. It's a stunt, she screamed. She stood up so fast her chair scraped harshly against the hardwood floor. You're a show-off. You've always been a show-off. You sit there with your billions and your empire, and you think you can just walk in here and make your brother feel small on his big day. I blinked, my vision blurring. Make him feel small? Mom, I bought him a palace in the sky. I want him to have the best life possible. No, Leo said. His voice was cold, brittle. I turned to look at him, my little brother, the boy I had protected, the man I had funded. He wasn't looking at the keys with longing. He was looking at them with pure, unadulterated disgust. He reached out, his fingers trembling slightly, and he didn't pick them up. He gripped the edge of the velvet box and shoved it back toward me. It skidded across the linen, hitting my water glass with a sharp clink. I won't be bought, Kara, Leo sneered. The lip curl was so cruel it felt like a physical slap. I'm not one of your developers. I'm not some intern you can pat on the head with a bonus. Leo, that's not what this is. It's exactly what this is, he shouted, his face flushing a deep, angry crimson. You want to own me. You want everyone at this wedding to know that I'm living in your house. You want Chloe to know that her husband couldn't provide for her, but his big, successful sister could. I don't want your dirty tech money. I don't want anything that comes from your cold, calculating hands. The word dirty rang in my ears like a bell. I had worked 18-hour days for a decade. I had sacrificed my youth, my health, and every relationship I ever had to build something that could take care of them. My money wasn't dirty. It was earned in sweat and isolation. I looked at my father, expecting him to intervene. He was the one who always told me to be the provider. He was the one who took my checks without a word of complaint for years. But he didn't look at me. He looked at the floor, his jaw set in a hard line. Your mother is right, he muttered. This is in poor taste, Kara. You've humiliated your brother. I humiliated him by giving him $10 million, I whispered. My voice felt small. My throat was closing up, the muscles tightening until it hurt to swallow. I paid for this dinner. I paid for the ring on Chloe's finger. I paid for the car Leo drove here tonight. Why is the penthouse the breaking point? Chloe, the woman who was supposed to be my sister-in-law tomorrow, leaned forward. Her eyes were like chips of ice. Because this time you tried to take his dignity. You wanted to be the hero of the wedding. Well, congratulations, you're the villain. The silence returned, but this time it was heavy with judgment. My own family was glaring at me as if I had walked into the room and committed a violent crime. I felt a cold sweat break out across my forehead. My hands were shaking so violently I had to hide them under the table. I looked at Meredith. She was still standing, her chest heaving with indignation. She looked at me with such genuine hatred that I felt a physical pain in my solar plexus. I was her daughter. I was the one who had saved them from the brink of bankruptcy 5 years ago. Take the keys, Kara, my mother said, her voice dripping with venom. Take them and get out. We don't want you here. We don't want your money, and we don't want your presence. You've poisoned this family long enough with your ego. The room felt like it was spinning. The expensive rosemary scent now smelled like rot. I looked at the golden keys sitting in front of me, the keys to a dream I thought we all shared. I reached out and curled my fingers around the velvet box. It felt heavy. It felt like lead. I stood up, my legs feeling like they were made of water. No one moved. No one tried to stop me. No one even looked at me as I turned toward the door, leaving the golden child and his pride behind in the wreckage of a dinner I had paid for. I'm Kara Vance, 32, and I turned a single line of code into a global software empire while my family treated me like an ATM with an attitude problem. My back still carries the tension of 1,000 sleepless nights spent in a windowless office, fueled by the desperate hope that if I became successful enough, I would finally be enough for them. I thought a $10 million penthouse was the ultimate I love you. I thought it was a bridge. Instead, it became the match that set my entire world on fire. The private dining room at the Gilded Anchor feels like a tomb. I look across the table at my father, Thomas. He stands up slowly, his chair groaning under his weight. He doesn't look like the man whose mortgage I paid off 3 years ago. He looks like a judge delivering a death sentence. His face is a terrifying shade of mottled purple, the veins in his neck bulging like thick cords. You think you're God because you have a decimal point followed by 9 zeros. His voice booms, echoing off the mahogany walls and making the crystal wine glasses chatter. You're an arrogant brat, Kara. You've always been one. You think money buys love. You think you can buy your brother's soul with a deed to a building. I feel the blood drain from my face. It's a physical sensation, a cold tide receding from my skin, leaving me shivering in the heat of the room. I look at Chloe's parents, the wealthy, old money in-laws Leo has been desperate to impress. They are staring at me with a mix of horror and icy judgment. My father is performing for them. He is showing them that he isn't new money trash. He's a man of principle who can't be bought by his own daughter. Dad, I just wanted him to have a home, I whisper. My voice is thin. It sounds like a stranger's. You wanted to own him? He roars. He slams his fist onto the table. A fork jumps and clatters onto the floor. You wanted everyone at that wedding tomorrow to know that the groom is living in your shadow. You wanted to make him small so you could feel big. My mother, Meredith, steps forward. She doesn't yell. She doesn't have to. Her voice is a surgical blade, cold and precise. She places a hand on Leo's shoulder, anchoring herself to the golden sun she's always preferred. She looks at me with an expression of such pure, unadulterated disgust that I feel a sharp, stabbing pain in my solar plexus. You are no longer a Vance, she says. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually stumble back a step, my hip catching the edge of the sideboard. The room begins to spin. The scent of the expensive rosemary-crusted lamb on the table suddenly smells like rot. Mom, what are you saying? I gasp. My lungs feel like they're collapsing. I am saying that as of this moment you are a stranger to us, she continues. Her eyes are chips of flint. We are purifying our lives, Kara. We are removing the toxicity that you bring into every room you enter. You think your checks give you the right to look down on us, to treat your brother like a charity case on the eve of his wedding. I paid for this wedding. I scream, the words finally tearing out of my throat. I paid for your house. I paid for the clothes on your backs. And that is the last time you will ever hold it over us, my mother says. She points a trembling, manicured finger toward the heavy oak doors of the private room. Leave, right now, take your keys and your ego and get out of this restaurant. I'm coming to the wedding tomorrow, I say, my voice shaking with a desperate, pathetic hope. I'm the maid of honor, I have my dress. You are forbidden from the wedding, she cuts me off. The finality in her tone is absolute. If you show up, I will have security remove you. We don't want you there. Chloe doesn't want you there. Leo certainly doesn't want you there. I look at Leo, my little brother, the boy I protected from bullies. The man whose Ivy League tuition I paid in full so he wouldn't have a cent of debt. He won't even look at me. He's staring at his wine glass, his jaw set in a hard, stubborn line of silent agreement. He is choosing them. He is choosing the dignity of being poor over the sister who gave him everything. Get out, Kara, my father growls. We are done being your projects. I feel a high, piercing whine start to ring in my ears. It's the sound of 32 years of my life being erased in 60 seconds. Every birthday dinner I funded, every holiday I made perfect, every sacrifice I made to ensure they never wanted for anything, it's all gone. They aren't just taking away my family, they are rewriting my history as a villain. I reach out and grab the velvet box containing the penthouse keys. My fingers are numb, I can't feel the fabric. I turn toward the door, my legs feeling like they're made of lead. I can feel the eyes of the in-laws on my back, their silent whispers already beginning. I walk out of the room, the heavy doors clicking shut behind me with a sound like a guillotine. I stand in the hallway of the five-star restaurant, surrounded by luxury I paid for, and I realize I have never been more alone in my entire life. The Vance name is gone. My family is gone. But as the shock begins to fade, a new sensation starts to simmer deep in my chest. It's a cold, hard knot of white-hot rage. They want to purify their lives? Fine. Let's see how pure their lives are when the money stops flowing. I'm Kara Vance, 32, and I built a multi-million-dollar software empire from a studio apartment while surviving on caffeine and the desperate hope that my success would finally buy my family's pride. My life has been a series of calculated risks and high-stakes negotiations, but I never realized that the most dangerous people I would ever face were the ones who shared my DNA. The interior of my car feels like a vacuum. I am sitting in the driver's seat of my SUV, the leather cold against my legs, staring through the windshield at the neon sign of the Gilded Anchor. My chest is heaving. Every breath I take feels like I'm inhaling shards of glass. My hands are locked onto the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles are ghostly white, vibrating with a tremor I can't suppress. I was just erased. 32 years of being the daughter, the sister, the provider gone in a single dinner. The Vance name, which I worked so hard to polish, has been stripped from me by the very people I was trying to protect. I feel a hot, stinging tear track down my cheek, and I swipe it away with a snarl of frustration. I am Kara Vance. I don't cry, I solve problems. But how do you solve the fact that your mother looked at you like you were a disease? How do you fix the fact that your brother, the boy you raised when your parents were too busy being distinguished, wouldn't even meet your eyes? The silence in the car is heavy, suffocating. I reach for the ignition, my movements jerky and uncoordinated. I just want to go home. I want to crawl into my bed in my empty, silent mansion and pretend that tonight never happened. Then my phone pings. The sound is sharp, cutting through the gloom of the cabin. I look down at the center console. The screen is illuminated, casting a harsh blue light across my face. It's a notification from the family group chat, the one titled Vance Inner Circle. I thought they would have removed me the second I walked out those doors. I pick up the phone, my thumb hovering over the screen. My heart is hammering against my ribs, a frantic, rhythmic thud. I expect to see a final insult, a formal goodbye, or perhaps a notification that I've been blocked. Instead, I see a wall of text. And it isn't meant for me. I realize within seconds that they've forgotten I'm still on the thread. Or perhaps in their adrenaline-fueled victory, they assumed I'd already deleted the app in a fit of pique. I watch the bubbles appear in real time. My eyes scan the words, and the world around me begins to slow down. Leo, that was intense. Mom, you were incredible. I thought she was going to have a heart attack when you told her she wasn't a Vance anymore. Meredith, it had to be done, Leo. If we didn't break her tonight, she'd keep that penthouse tied up in that ridiculous trust forever. She thinks she's so smart with her protection clauses. Thomas, did she buy the dirty money angle? I thought I overplayed the part about her ego. Chloe, she bought it hook, line, and sinker. She was shaking. It was perfect. Now we just wait 24 hours. She'll be so desperate to fix things before the wedding that she'll sign anything I put in front of her. I feel a coldness start at the base of my spine and spread upward. It's not the cold of the air conditioner. It's a deep, marrow-chilling frost. I scroll up, my thumb moving of its own accord. I see messages from 3 days ago. Messages I missed because I was too busy finalizing the closing costs on the gift that was supposed to change their lives. Meredith, I've talked to the lawyer. If the deed is in my name, we can list the penthouse for sale within 48 hours of the wedding. The market is peaking. We can get 12 million easy. That's enough to fund Leo's venture and cover the debts Thomas has been hiding. Leo and Kara, what if she finds out? Meredith, she won't. We play the moral card. We make her feel like her wealth is a burden on our values. She's always been desperate for our approval. She'll hand over the title just to prove she's one of us again. Then we sell and we never have to deal with her arrogance again. I read the words over and over. Desperate for our approval. Play the moral card. Never have to deal with her again. The shaking in my hands stops. The tremor that has haunted me since I walked out of that restaurant vanishes, replaced by a terrifying, absolute stillness. My skin feels tight. My vision is suddenly piercingly sharp. I can see the individual grains of leather on the steering wheel. I can hear the distant hum of the city, the heartbeat of the empire I built with my own 2 hands. They didn't hate my money. They hated that they couldn't control it. They didn't find my gift tasteless. They found it unusable. The moral outrage, the screaming, the disowning, it was all a performance. It was a heist. My own mother, the woman I've spent my entire adult life trying to impress, was the director. My brother, the boy I loved more than myself, was the lead actor. They were willing to shatter my heart, to cast me out like trash, all for a liquidation event. I lean my head back against the headrest and let out a long, slow breath. The sadness is gone. The grief that was threatening to drown me has evaporated, scorched away by a searing white-hot clarity. I look at the velvet box sitting on the passenger seat. The keys to the penthouse. The keys to their future. They think I'm going to crawl back. They think I'm going to show up at the wedding tomorrow with a revised deed and a tearful apology, begging for a seat at the table I paid for. They think they know me. They think I'm the same little girl who used to cry when they forgot her birthday. They've forgotten one very important thing. I didn't become the CEO of a global empire by being soft. I didn't get to where I am by letting people steal from me. In the world of tech, when someone tries to hack your system, you don't just patch the hole. You trace the signal back to the source. And then you shut them down. I pick up my phone. My thumb moves with surgical precision. I don't type a response in the group chat. I don't let them know I'm watching. Instead, I open my contacts and dial a number I know by heart. Marcus, I say when my head of security picks up. My voice is steady. It's the voice I use when I'm about to acquire a competitor. I need you to pull the security detail from the Vance residence now and call my lead counsel. We're revoking every trust, every allowance, and every deed associated with my name. Tonight, I look out at the restaurant one last time. The lights are warm and inviting. Inside, they are probably toasting to their victory. And Marcus, I add, a small, cold smile tugging at the corner of my mouth. Find out who's providing the catering and the venue for Leo's wedding tomorrow. I want to speak to the owners. I want to remind them who actually signed the checks. The Vance family wanted to see what life was like without my dirty money. I'm about to give them exactly what they asked for. And by the time the sun rises on Leo's wedding day, they're going to realize that the only thing more dangerous than my love is my silence. I'm Kara Vance, 32, and I built a multi-million-dollar software empire from a studio apartment while surviving on caffeine and the desperate hope that my success would finally buy my family's pride. I am the woman who turned a line of code into a legacy, only to realize that my family didn't want my legacy. They wanted my liquid assets. The city of Chicago is a blur of streaking white and red lights as I push my sedan to its limit. My grip on the steering wheel is so tight my joints ache, but I don't loosen it. I can't. If I let go, I might fly apart. I pull into the underground parking garage of my corporate headquarters at exactly 12:14 a.m. The tires screech against the polished concrete, a sharp, violent sound that echoes through the empty levels. I kill the engine, and for a moment the silence is heavier than the noise. I step out of the car. The air in the garage is stale and smells of exhaust and cold stone. My heels hit the floor with a rhythmic, lethal precision. Click, click, click. I am a woman on a mission. I am no longer a daughter. I am no longer a sister. I am a CEO who has just discovered a massive leak in her organization, and I am here to plug it. The lobby of Vance Global is a cathedral of glass and marble. Usually, the sight of my name etched into the frosted glass wall brings me a sense of peace. Tonight, it feels like a target. I swipe my executive badge at the turnstile. The light flashes green. The sound of the gate opening is the sound of a drawbridge being raised. I am safe inside my fortress now. The elevator ride to the 48th floor feels eternal. I watch the numbers climb, my reflection in the brushed steel doors looking like a stranger. My eyes are dark, my jaw set so hard it feels like it might crack. When the doors slide open, the motion sensor lights in the executive wing flicker to life, one by one, illuminating the path to my office like a runway for a crash landing. I don't go to the break room for water. I don't take off my coat. I walk straight to my mahogany desk and sit down. The leather chair is cold. I wake my computer, the triple monitors bathing my face in a harsh, clinical blue light. My pulse is a steady, drumming thrum in my ears. I pick up my desk phone and hit a speed dial button I haven't used at this hour in 3 years. Marcus, I say, my voice dropping into a low, terrifyingly calm register the moment he picks up. I assume you're awake. Boss, Marcus, my head of security, sounds instantly alert. What's the situation? Is there a breach? A total system failure, I reply. I'm staring at a digital folder labeled Vance Family Office. I need a full tactical unwinding of all family-adjacent assets. I want the security detail pulled from my parents' estate in Lake Forest immediately. I want the gate codes changed. If they try to enter my office building or any of the satellite properties, they are to be treated as trespassers. No exceptions. There is a brief pause on the other end. Marcus knows my family. He's been the one driving them to events I was too busy to attend. Understood. What about the brothers' wedding security for tomorrow? Cancel it, I say, my finger hovering over the mouse. Let them hire their own muscle. And Marcus, call the repo company we keep on retainer. I want the 2 Range Rovers and the Mercedes G-Wagon picked up before the sun rises. The leases are in the company name. They are no longer authorized drivers. I'm on it, Marcus says. He doesn't ask why. He's seen me in acquisition mode before. He knows better than to get in the way. I hang up and immediately dial Sarah, my lead accountant. She answers on the 4th ring, her voice thick with sleep. Kara, is everything okay? Sarah, I need you to log into the Vance Family Trust portal. Now I'm sending you an authorization code. It's midnight, Kara, she groans, but I hear the sound of her laptop opening. What are we doing? We are freezing the black cards, I say. I watch the screen as the dashboard for the family credit accounts populates. I see the recent charges. $5,000 at a boutique florist. $12,000 for a rehearsal dinner fee. A 4-figure bar tab from tonight at the Gilded Anchor. My stomach turns. They were spending my money to celebrate disowning me. They were using my sweat and my sleepless nights to toast to their own greed. I see the accounts, Sarah says, her voice turning sharp as she realizes the gravity of the request. You want them suspended? I want them terminated, I correct her. And the monthly stipends to my father's charity and my mother's art foundation. Cut them. Reroute those funds to the general corporate reserve. I want the Vance name removed from the payroll by 1:00 a.m. Kara, this is scorched earth, Sarah whispers. They threw the first match, Sarah. I'm just controlling the burn. I end the call and turn my attention back to the screen. I open the management portal for the high-end SUV leases. I see the GPS trackers on the vehicles. They're currently parked in the valet lot of the hotel where the wedding party is staying. My thumb clicks the mouse. Deactivate remote start. Revoke driver access. Request immediate recovery. I watch the status bars turn from green to red. Next, I navigate to the digital deed for the penthouse. The gift. I open the trust documents I had drafted so lovingly. I find the clause I insisted on, the one my mother called ridiculous. Section 4.2. Grantor reserves the right to revoke the transfer of title at any time prior to the physical handover of keys and the signing of the final acceptance memorandum. They haven't signed the memorandum yet. They were waiting for tomorrow. They wanted the public spectacle of the wedding before they finalized the dirty business of the paperwork. I hit delete. The file vanishes. The penthouse is no longer a gift. It is once again a corporate asset of Vance Global. I lean back in my chair, the blue light of the monitors reflecting in my eyes. I feel a strange, hollow sort of peace. For 32 years, I have been the foundation they built their lives upon. I have been the bank, the safety net, and the scapegoat. I have carried the weight of their expectations and the burden of their hidden debts. I look at the clock, 1:45 a.m. In a few hours, my mother will try to order a room service breakfast on a card that won't work. My father will try to call his driver who won't answer. And my brother will walk down to the valet to head to his wedding venue, only to find his luxury ride being hoisted onto the back of a flatbed truck. I reach for my phone one last time. I have one more call to make. The most important one. I need to talk to the owner of the glass house, the most exclusive wedding venue in the city. The place where Leo thinks he's becoming a king tomorrow. I hope they like the taste of dirty money. Because by the time I'm done, they won't have a single cent of it left to their name. I'm Cashin Thorne, 34, and I built a multi-million-dollar software empire out of a studio apartment while my family treated me like an invisible ATM. I am the woman who turned lines of code into a fortress of capital, only to realize that the people I loved were just termites eating at the foundation. The air in my 48th floor executive suite is chilled to exactly 68 degrees. It smells of expensive roasted beans and the ozone of high-end electronics. I sit in my ergonomic leather chair, my back straight, my eyes fixed on the triptych of monitors glowing in the dim morning light. It is 8:00 a.m. The sun is a pale, bruised orange bleeding over the Chicago skyline, reflecting off the lake in a way that makes the water look like hammered copper. I take a sip of my coffee. It's black, bitter, and stone cold. I don't mind. The bitterness matches the steady, rhythmic thrum of my heart. On my center monitor, a live dashboard of Vance family assets flickers with red activity. This is the nervous system of their lifestyle, and I have just severed the spinal cord. At 8:12 a.m., a notification pings. Transaction declined. Le Visage Salon and Spa. Amount $4,200. I lean in, staring at the line of text. I can see the scene in my mind as if I'm standing there. My mother, Beatrice, is sitting in a velvet-lined chair. Her hair is likely half-pinned, a chaotic mess of silver blonde curls. She is surrounded by her inner circle, women who only tolerate her because of the galas I fund. She would have handed over the black titanium card with that effortless, royal flick of her wrist. The card would have slid through the reader. The silence in that salon must be deafening right now. I imagine the stylist's face, the awkward clearing of a throat, and my mother's sharp, indignant laugh. "Try it again," she'll say. "There must be a glitch with the bank." "There is no glitch, mother, there is only me." My phone, resting on the desk to my left, begins to dance. The vibration is a violent, skittering sound against the wood. "Mom, I don't move a muscle. I watch the screen light up, then go dark, then light up again." At 8:24 a.m., a second alert flashes on my screen. This one comes from the GPS tracking software Marcus installed on the company-owned delivery fleet. The florist's truck has arrived at St. Jude's Cathedral. I click on the remote security feed I have access to through the church's exterior cameras. A white van with pedals and prestige decaled on the side is idling at the curb. I watch the driver step out. He is holding a tablet, gesturing wildly at a man in a tuxedo, likely the wedding coordinator I hired 3 months ago. The final payment of $18,000 was set to auto-pay from my primary business account at 8:00 a.m. I blocked the transfer at midnight. Through the grainy footage, I see the florist shake his head. He points to the back of the truck. He isn't opening the doors. He isn't unloading the 5,000 white orchids that Leo insisted were essential for the aesthetic. He's getting back into the driver's seat. The truck pulls away, leaving the coordinator standing on the sidewalk, looking like he's just seen a ghost. My phone vibrates again, and again, and again. The names flash by in a blur of desperation. "Dad, Leo, Mom, Leo, Mom." I pick up the device. My thumb hovers over the screen. I feel the phantom itch of 1,000 past apologies I've made for things that weren't my fault. I feel the weight of the years I spent trying to buy a seat at their table. I slide the toggle to Do Not Disturb. The silence that follows is the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. I lean back, my eyes returning to the window. The city is waking up. Thousands of people are starting their day, oblivious to the fact that a dynasty is collapsing in a high-rise office. My father will be calling his driver right now, only to find the man's phone disconnected because I terminated the contract. My brother Leo will be standing in his hotel suite, looking for the cufflinks I was supposed to bring, the ones that are currently sitting in my desk drawer. I feel a strange, cold tingling in my fingertips. It's not guilt. It's the sensation of a limb waking up after being numb for decades. At 8:45 a.m., the missed call counter hits 42. They are panicked now. The realization is setting in. The dirty money they mocked last night, the wealth they said I used to control them, is suddenly the only thing they care about. They wanted to see what life was like without my influence. They wanted to stand on their own 2 feet. I am simply giving them the floor they asked for. I just didn't tell them it was a trapdoor. I pick up my coffee mug and drain the last of the cold liquid. My reflection in the glass of the monitor looks different than it did yesterday. The softness in my jaw is gone. My eyes are hard, obsidian dark and focused. I watch the sun climb higher, bathing the cathedral in light. It's a perfect day for a wedding, a perfect day for a beginning. Too bad for them, I'm only interested in the ending. I reach out and close the Vance family tab. The red notifications vanish. The screen returns to my corporate headquarters' serene blue interface. I have a board meeting at 10. I have a merger to finalize by noon. I have a life to live that doesn't involve being a human shield for people who would leave me bleeding in a ditch if it meant they could keep their country club memberships. I stand up, smoothing the front of my charcoal suit. My heels click against the floor as I walk toward the window. I look down at the tiny, ant-like cars crawling through the streets below. Somewhere down there, my mother is screaming at a receptionist. Somewhere down there, my brother is realizing his big day is turning into a public funeral for his reputation. I smile, and for the first time in 34 years, the expression reaches my eyes. Happy wedding day, Leo, I whisper to the empty room. I hope the silence is everything you hoped it would be. I'm Cashin Thorne, 34, and I built a multi-million-dollar software empire out of a studio apartment while my family treated me like an invisible ATM. The silk of my custom red power suit feels like cool, structured armor against my skin. It is the color of a warning light. It is the color of a closing bell. I stand before the full-length mirror in my penthouse, smoothing the lapels. My hair is pulled back into a knot so tight it pulls at my temples, sharpening the angles of my face. I look like a woman who is about to sign a merger, not attend a wedding. I don't grab a gift. I grab my encrypted tablet and a single manila folder. The drive to the Glass House Hotel is silent. I watch the city blur past the tinted windows of my car. My heart isn't racing. It is beating with a slow, mechanical precision. I feel detached, like a surgeon scrubbing in for a necessary, if bloody, procedure. When the car pulls up to the gold-leafed entrance of the hotel, the valet reaches for the door. I step out, and the click of my stiletto heels on the marble sounds like a gunshot in the morning air. I don't look toward the chapel where the guests are beginning to gather. I don't look at the white ribbons or the cascades of lilies. I walk straight toward the executive wing. Miss Thorne, the hotel manager, Mr. Henderson, says as I breeze past his assistant. He stands up so fast his chair hits the wall. He knows me. He knows that while his hotel is world-renowned, the very ground it sits on is owned by Thorne Holdings. He knows I am the landlord of his entire existence. I need the master ledger for the grand ballroom, I say. My voice is a flat, dead calm. Of course, Miss Thorne, I thought you were here for for your brother's ceremony. He's sweating. A small bead of moisture tracks down his temple. I am here on business, Henderson, I reply. I lean over his desk, my shadow falling across his paperwork. The family courtesy rate applied to the Vance Miller wedding, rescind it, immediately. But that's a 90% discount, Miss Thorne, your mother. She said, my mother doesn't own the dirt under your feet, I do. I tap a finger on his desk, the sound is sharp. The family discount is for family. As of last night, I'm a stranger to the Vance name. Ray, bill the event at the premium last-minute booking rate. Add the insurance surcharges. Add the security premiums. And Henderson, yes, tell them the ballroom doors don't open until the balance is zero. I leave him fumbling for his phone and head for the elevators. The ride to the bridal suite is smooth. I watch the floor numbers climb. 10, 11, 12. My reflection in the brushed metal of the elevator doors looks predatory. I don't knock. I push the double doors open. The room is a cyclone of white tulle and expensive perfume. My mother Beatrice is draped over a velvet chaise lounge, a damp cloth over her eyes. 2 bridesmaids are hovering over her with fans. Leo is pacing by the window, his tuxedo jacket off, his shirt damp with sweat. He looks small. He looks like a boy playing dress-up in a kingdom that just ran out of gold. The room goes silent when I walk in. "Cash in," Leo gasps. He takes a step toward me, his face a mask of desperate relief. "Thank God the cards the florist left cash in. The caterers are threatening to pull the staff. You need to call the bank. There's been some mistake." My mother sits up, the cloth falling from her face. Her eyes are bloodshot. You've humiliated us. Do you know what people are saying?" Valet refused to take Leo's car. They said it was reported stolen. I walk to the center of the room. I stand on the white rug, my red suit a violent stain on their perfect aesthetic. I smell the lilies. They smell like a funeral. "I'm not here to fix your mistakes, Mother," I say. I tuck my hands into my pockets. "I'm here as a representative of Thorn Holdings." "What are you talking about?" Leo asks, his voice cracking. "Cash in, stop playing games. The ceremony starts in 40 minutes. Just pay the fees and we can talk about your little tantrum later." "There is no we," I say. I let the words hang in the air. I want them to feel the weight of them. "Last night you made it very clear that I am not a part of this family. You disowned me. You called my success dirty. You told me you didn't need my shadow over your lives." I take a step toward him. Leo flinches. "I've spent a decade being your safety net." I continue, my voice dropping to a whisper that carries further than a scream. "But since I'm a stranger now, I've decided to conduct myself like a businesswoman. I've revoked the family discount for this venue. The ballroom, the catering, the staff, and the liquor. The bill has just been updated to the standard market rate." I pull the manila folder from under my arm and toss it onto the coffee table. It slides across the glass, hitting a crystal vase. "The total is $200,000, I say. Due to the high risk of your current financial standing, the hotel is requiring payment in full, cash or certified wire, now." My mother lets out a sound that is half sob, half shriek. "200,000, we don't have that, you know we don't have that." "I do know that," I say. I feel a cold, sharp spark of electricity under my skin. "That sounds like a personal problem. And as you reminded me last night, your problems are no longer mine." Leo's face goes from pale to a sickly, mottled gray. "Cash in, please. You can't do this. The guests, the Millers, they're already downstairs. You'll ruin me." "You ruined yourself the second you thought you could bite the hand that feeds you and still expect a seat at the table," I reply. I look at my watch. The second hand ticks forward. "You have 38 minutes to find the money, Leo," I say. I turn toward the door. "I'd start checking the couch cushions. Or maybe you can pay them in family values." I walk out, the heavy doors thudding shut behind me, leaving the sound of my mother's hysterics and my brother's crumbling life in the rearview mirror of my mind. I don't look back. I don't feel a single pang of regret. I just feel the sun on the red silk of my shoulder and the glorious, terrifying weight of finally being free. I'm Cashin Thorne, 34, and I transformed a skeletal startup into a billion-dollar empire while my family treated me like a walking, talking vault they didn't have the combination for. I don't make it to the elevators. The heavy, soundproofed doors of the bridal suite burst open behind me with a violent bang. I don't turn around immediately. I listen to the frantic, uneven rhythm of dress shoes slapping against the plush hallway carpet. It is the sound of a man who has finally realized the ground beneath him isn't just shaking, it's gone. Cashin, wait. Leo's voice is high, reedy, and vibrating with a frequency of pure terror I haven't heard since we were children and he broke one of Mother's porcelain vases. I stop. I slowly rotate on the heel of my stiletto, my arms crossed over the sharp lapels of my red suit. My brother doesn't just stop in front of me, he collapses. His knees hit the marble border of the carpet with a sickening thud. He doesn't care about the crease in his trousers or the dignity of his position. He reaches out, his fingers trembling as he tries to grab the hem of my pants, but I take a calculated step back. He misses, his hands fluttering in the empty air like dying birds. Please, he gasps. His face is the color of curdled milk. A thick sheen of sweat has broken out across his forehead, ruining the expensive foundation the makeup artist clearly applied to hide his hangover. You can't do this, not today, not to me. I'm not doing anything, Leo, I say, my voice is a low, melodic hum. I am simply abstaining, there is a difference. Just be a sister, he begs, his voice cracking into a sob. He looks up at me, his eyes rimmed with red. Just for one more day, just get us through the ceremony, once I'm married. Once the Miller merger is official, I'll make it up to you, I swear, I'll pay you back every cent, just be my sister for 10 more hours. The word sister feels like a slur coming from his mouth. It feels like a hook he's trying to sink into my skin to drag me back down into the mud with him. A sister, I repeat. I tilt my head, watching a bead of sweat roll down his temple and disappear into the collar of his shirt. Is that what I was when you and Mother were laughing about my ego over brunch? Was I your sister when you told your friends that I was lucky to have a family who tolerated my coldness? I didn't mean it, he wheezes. He's hyperventilating now, his chest heaving under the weight of his designer vest. It was just talk, Cass, you know how Mother gets, I was just playing along. Oh, I know exactly how you play, Leo, I say. I reach into my pocket and pull out my phone. My movements are slow, deliberate, and predatory. I unlock the screen and pull up the file I've been staring at for hours. I step closer to him, bending down just enough so he can see the screen, but not enough to let him touch me. Do you recognize this layout? I ask. I hold the phone inches from his nose. It's a series of screenshots from a group chat titled The Inner Circle. The participants are Leo, Mother, and his bride-to-be, Chloe. Leo's eyes widen. His pupils dilate until his eyes look like two black holes. Where did you get that? He whispers. I own the servers your private messaging app runs on, Leo, I lie. The truth is simpler, I just hired a better hacker than he could ever afford. Let's read some of these highlights together, shall we? Here's one from you, dated 3 weeks ago. Once the deed for the penthouse is in my name, I'm listing it. Cashin is too arrogant to notice. She thinks she's buying my love, but she's really just funding our lifestyle for the next 5 years. I scroll down. Leo is shaking so hard I can hear his teeth chattering. And here's Chloe. I continue, my voice dripping with icy disdain. The cash cow is finally being led to the slaughter. I can't wait to see her face when she realizes she's not invited to the summer house she paid for. I pull the phone back and stand up straight, looking down at him as he shrivels on the floor. The cash cow has left the barn, Leo, I say, and she took the barn with her. Cashin, I can explain, he stammers, reaching up again, his voice a pathetic whine. It was Chloe's idea. I don't care whose idea it was, I cut him off. I care about the execution, and yours was sloppy. A shadow falls over us. I look past Leo's crumpled form. Standing in the doorway of the suite is Arthur Miller, the bride's father. The man whose old money reputation was supposed to be the final piece of Leo's social climbing puzzle. He's wearing a morning suit that costs more than Leo's car, and his face is set in a mask of grim, aristocratic fury. He's been standing there for at least 2 minutes. He heard it all. Arthur, Leo gasps, scrambling to his feet, nearly tripping on his own feet. Arthur, it's not, we were just. Arthur Miller doesn't even look at Leo. He looks at me. He's a shark, and he recognizes another apex predator when he sees one. He sees the red suit. He sees the phone in my hand. He sees the absolute wreckage of a man standing before him. Miss Thorne, Arthur says, his voice like grinding stones. Mr. Miller, I reply with a sharp, professional nod. I assume you're here to check on the progress of the merger. Arthur steps into the hallway, his gaze finally dropping to Leo. The look of disgust on his face is so profound it's almost physical. He looks at Leo like he's a cockroach he just found in his vintage cognac. I came to see why my daughter's future husband was screaming in the hallway, Arthur says. He looks back at me. Is it true? The penthouse, the cash cow. Every word, I say, my heart beating with a steady, triumphant rhythm. My brother and his fiancée have spent the last 6 months planning how to liquidate my gifts to cover the debts they've run up trying to impress you. They aren't joining your circle, Arthur. They're trying to pick your pocket. Leo looks like he's going to faint. Arthur, please, she's lying. She's bitter because we disowned her. Arthur Miller lets out a short, dry laugh that contains zero mirth. She's not the one on her knees, Leo. And she's not the one whose credit cards were just declined at the floral station downstairs. Arthur turns his back on Leo, facing me fully. I've spent 40 years protecting the Miller name from grifters and con artists. I suppose I owe you a debt of gratitude for showing me the rot before I signed the marriage license. Consider it a professional courtesy, I say. I walk past Leo, my shoulder brushing his as I head toward the elevator. He's frozen, a ghost in a tuxedo, watching his entire future evaporate in the air-conditioned hallway. I reach the elevator and press the button. The doors slide open with a soft, melodic chime. I step inside and turn around. Leo is still standing there, staring at Arthur Miller's retreating back as the older man heads toward his daughter's room to end the wedding. My brother looks at me one last time, his mouth hanging open, his eyes hollow. I don't say a word. I just reach out and press the button for the lobby. As the doors begin to close, I catch my reflection in the polished brass. I look radiant. I look powerful. I look like a woman who just burned down a haunted house and walked out without a speck of soot on her red silk suit. The doors seal shut, cutting off the sound of Leo's first broken scream of realization. I'm finally alone. And for the first time in my life, the silence doesn't feel like a void. It feels like a victory. I'm Cashin Thorne, 34, and I transformed a skeletal startup into a billion-dollar empire while my family treated me like a walking, talking vault they didn't have the combination for. I check my watch. It is 2:45 p.m. Right now, 5 miles away at St. Jude's Cathedral, the silence must be deafening. I can almost taste the stagnant, humid air of the sanctuary. I personally called the florist, the decorator, and the organist 3 hours ago to cancel every single contract. I didn't just stop the payments, I paid them double to stay home. In my mind's eye, I see the 300 guests, the elite of the city, fanning themselves with empty programs in a church that smells of floor wax and desperation. There are no lilies, there is no Bach. There is only the rhythmic, mocking tick of the wall clock and the sight of my brother, Leo, standing at an altar that looks as hollow as his promises. I am not there to see it. I have a much more pressing appointment. I stand on the sweeping stone porch of the Vance family mansion, the ancestral home my parents brag about at every cocktail party. They forget to mention that I bought it in my name 3 years ago when the bank was moments away from seizing it. I've spent 42 months playing the role of the dutiful daughter, paying the taxes, the upkeep, and the staff while they lived like royalty on my dime. The rain begins to fall. It isn't a soft summer drizzle. It's a cold, aggressive downpour that turns the manicured lawn into a swamp. Behind me, the front doors are wide open. A team of 20 professional movers, men I hired for their speed and lack of questions, are working with surgical precision. They aren't packing. They are purging. I watch a $3,000 mahogany side table get carried out and set directly onto the wet pavement. My mother's custom-made velvet armchairs follow, their plush fabric soaking up the rainwater like thirsting sponges. A box of fine bone china is stacked haphazardly on top of a damp rug. "Careful with that," I say to a mover carrying a heavy crate of my father's vintage wine. "Actually, don't be. Just put it near the curb." The sound of a luxury engine cuts through the hiss of the rain. A black Mercedes-Benz screeches into the circular driveway, spraying muddy water over the piles of designer clothes already strewn across the gravel. My parents and Leo spill out of the car. They look like characters from a tragedy that hasn't quite realized it's a comedy yet. My mother is wearing a champagne-colored lace gown that is now streaked with gray silt. Leo is still in his tuxedo, his bow tie undone, his face a mask of shattered pride. They stop dead at the edge of the lawn. "Cashin." My mother's voice is a shrill, broken bird call. She looks at her hand-carved wardrobe sitting in a puddle. "What is this? What are you doing?" I don't move from the top step. I keep my hands tucked into the pockets of my red silk trousers. I'm exercising my rights as the property owner mother. The lease has expired. "Property owner?" My father bellows, his face turning a dangerous shade of purple. He marches toward the porch, but two of my hired security guards step into his path. He recoils as if he's been slapped. "This is our home, you can't do this." "It was a house I let you occupy," I clarify. My voice is steady, a sharp contrast to the thunder rolling overhead. "A home requires a family. We haven't been that for a very long time." I turn my head slightly as the locksmith finishes his work. The heavy thud of the new deadbolt sliding into place echoes across the portico. He hands me a set of heavy brass keys. I feel their weight in my palm, the weight of every holiday I spent alone, every loan that was never repaid, and every insult they whispered when they thought I wasn't listening. Leo steps forward, his eyes darting between the movers and the ruin of his family's reputation. "Cashin, please. Chloe's father called off the wedding. The Millers are gone. We have nothing left. You can't kick us out in the rain." "You had a penthouse, Leo," I remind him, my eyes narrowing. "But you decided that selling it behind my back was more profitable than keeping a roof over your head. This is the consequence of your math." My mother is sobbing now, her expensive mascara running in dark tracks down her cheeks. She looks at the pile of her silk dresses on the sidewalk. "We're your parents, you owe us." "I owe you nothing," I say. I reach into my inner jacket pocket and pull out a crisp white envelope. I descend the stairs slowly, the rain instantly matting my hair, but I don't care. I feel more alive than I have in a decade. I stop 3 feet away from my mother and hold out the envelope. What is this? She whispers, her fingers trembling as she takes it. An invoice, I say. I've spent the last 48 hours auditing the gifts I've given this family over the last 5 years. That is a bill for back rent, property taxes, and the interest on the loans your husband took from my corporate accounts without authorization. It's a total of $1.2 million. My father gasps, clutching his chest. You're suing us. I'm billing you, I correct him. If it isn't paid in 30 days, my legal team will move to seize your remaining assets. The cars, the jewelry, the offshore accounts I know you've been hiding. I lean in closer to my mother, so close I can smell the expensive gin on her breath. You told me I was cold, mother, I whisper. You told me I was a machine built of glass and ego. You were wrong, I'm a fire. And I've finally finished burning down everything you used to keep yourself warm. I turn my back on them. I walk toward the heavy oak doors of the house that is now truly mine. Where are we supposed to go? Leo screams through the downpour. I pause with my hand on the door frame. I don't look back. I hear the church is still open, I say. It's empty, it's hot, and there are no flowers. It should suit you perfectly. I step inside and pull the door shut. The click of the lock is the most beautiful sound I've ever heard. For the first time in 34 years, the house is silent. And for the first time in my life, I am home. I'm Kara Vance, 34, and I finally know what it feels like to breathe. I stood on the sidewalk and watched the massive gold-leafed gates of the Vance mansion swing shut for the last time. The sold sign hammered into the lawn felt like a victory flag. I didn't feel a single pang of nostalgia as the real estate agent handed over the final closing documents. I felt light. I felt like a bird that had finally figured out how to pick the lock on its gilded cage. I sold the penthouse within a week of the wedding that never was. I sold the mansion a month later. I liquidated every piece of legacy property my parents had used to chain me to their expectations. The numbers in my bank account were staggering, but they didn't feel like money anymore. They felt like fuel. I used every cent of the profit to buy an old, hollowed-out textile mill in the heart of the city's most neglected district. I didn't want a monument to myself. I wanted a forge. The day we opened the Vance Community Center for underprivileged entrepreneurs, the air smelled of fresh cedar and high-octane ambition. I walked through the open-plan workspace, my heels clicking rhythmically against the polished concrete floors. I ran my hand over a long oak table where a 20-year-old girl was sketching out a business plan for a sustainable tech startup. She didn't know who I was. She didn't care about my family name. She only cared about the high-speed internet and the mentorship program I had funded. "Is the light okay over here?" I asked her. She looked up, her eyes bright with a fire I recognized. "It's perfect," she said. "I've never had a place where I could just think." I nodded, a lump forming in my throat. I knew that feeling. I had spent 34 years in rooms where my thoughts were dictated by the highest bidder. Now I was providing the silence and the space for others to find their own voices. My former family, however, has found a much louder, much uglier way to use theirs. I sat in my lawyer's office 3 days ago. Marcus, a man who bills $500 an hour to be professionally unimpressed, tossed a thick manila envelope onto his mahogany desk. "They're at it again," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. "I didn't even have to open it." "What is it this time? Emotional distress? Theft of ancestral assets? Breach of a verbal contract they dreamed up in a gin-soaked haze?" "All of the above," Marcus replied, a smirk playing on his lips. Your father is claiming that the mansion was held in a constructive trust. Your mother is alleging that you stole her jewelry collection, the one you actually bought for her 55th birthday. I picked up the top sheet of the filing. It was signed by a cut-rate attorney whose office was located above a dry cleaner. My parents were desperate. They were living in a cramped two-bedroom rental on the edge of the industrial zone. I had seen a photo of it in a tabloid article titled The Fall of the Vance Dynasty. The siding was yellowed. The windows were small and clouded with grime. Leo's name was on the filing, too. My brother, the man who thought he could sell a gift to fund a fantasy, was now working as a junior clerk for a mid-sized logistics firm. He had no penthouse. He had no Chloe Miller. He had nothing but a tuxedo he couldn't afford to dry clean and a sister who had finally stopped paying his tabs. "What do we do?" I asked Marcus. He let out a short, dry laugh. It was the sound of a predator watching a wounded animal try to growl. "We do what we did last time, Kara. We show the judge the titles. We show the receipts. We show the signed eviction notices. And then we watch the judge laugh them out of court." "Do it," I said. I left the office and drove toward the skyline. I didn't head toward the glittering high-rises where the old money congregated. I drove toward the water, toward a quiet, minimalist loft I had purchased under a shell company. It wasn't a palace. It was a sanctuary. I walked into my new home and didn't turn on the lights. The floor-to-ceiling windows offered all the illumination I needed. The city was a carpet of diamonds spread out beneath me. I stood there, my forehead resting against the cool glass, listening to the hum of the world. There were no voices screaming about legacy. There were no phones ringing with demands for loans that were actually thefts. There was no heavy, suffocating scent of lilies and expensive perfume. I thought about my mother in that two-bedroom rental, probably staring at a cracked ceiling and wondering where she went wrong. I thought about my father, trying to figure out how to navigate a world where his name didn't open doors. I thought about Leo, realizing that the sister he treated like a bank was the only person who had ever truly looked out for him, until he burned the bridge while he was still standing on it. I felt a strange, cold flutter in my chest. It wasn't guilt. It was the realization that I didn't hate them anymore. Hate is a heavy emotion. It requires energy. It requires a connection. I felt nothing. I looked out at the skyline, watching the lights of a plane as it descended toward the airport. I didn't just lose a family. I didn't just lose a brother. I shed a skin that was too tight, a life that was a lie, and a name that was a curse. I am Kara Vance. I am the architect of my own peace. And as I watched the moon rise over the harbor, I realized that I didn't just survive the fire. I became the light. I turned away from the window and walked toward my bedroom, the silence of the loft wrapping around me like a velvet cloak. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop. I had already thrown the shoes away. I closed my eyes and fell into a sleep that was deep, dark, and entirely mine. I am finally free.